Welcome back to Menopause Madness. I will share with you in this video some experimenting I've been doing to help manage my stress levels and how that has been impacting my hot flashes. Excuse me. So, I've shared in other videos how cortisol levels can contribute to hot flashes, and it really comes back to managing blood sugar levels. I've learned a lot more since then, so this is going to be a deeper video. I just actually produced a webinar recording called The Power of Belief, The Pathway to Peace, Unlocking the Unlocking Holistic Health of the Mind, Body, and Soul. What does this have to do with menopause? Well, these things are applicable in all health situations, right? Regardless of whether that's cancer, which is the focus of my upcoming series. Really the focus is about holistic health, but whether you apply it to cancer as I did, or you apply it to menopause as I am. So, lost my train for a second, talking about how stress is a factor in hot flashes. However, I posted most recently, I think last week, talking about how stress is only bad for you if you believe it is. So coming back to your thoughts, it's always going to come back to what you believe. And of course, the deeper the story, the harder it is to let go of that belief, right? Like, it might be easy to change your mind about whether or not you're going to eat peas for dinner. Like, oh, I hate peas. And then you try them and you're like, oh, well, those weren't so bad. I could eat that. As opposed to, let's say, let's go really deep. You're not really a girl or a boy. You're just a light being. Okay. What do I do with that? Like, that does not compute, right? Yet there are people that get to that place of letting go of that much of the story. Like, you're not this identity you've painted for yourself. And of course, there's definitely in between levels of that, between, eating a new food or a food you previously didn't like and letting go of everything, various levels, depending on what, your story is. So for me, I've been doing a lot of practicing with being more in the moment with the hot flashes, as I did with the mood swings in a previous video that I shared, and recognizing that as I'm noticing a certain symptom, instead of automatically making a story out of it, and then, the story being like, oh, here it comes. Oh, this is bad. Oh my God, I'm doing it wrong. And, just all of the stuff that your mind likes to throw at you about how you're not doing well, or how the sky is falling. It really just creates resistance. And instead of allowing that experience to happen, you fight with it. And then it sticks around longer. And having been testing that more recently. So, okay, as I notice, like if I'm about to eat a food, and this doesn't mean ignore your body's needs, but if I'm about to eat a food that in the past has resulted in me having a hot flash, and I notice the thought as I'm eating the food, I've already started eating it. Oh man, this is going to cause my hot flash to pick up. Okay, letting that story go, because that's not serving me. And maybe it'll happen and maybe it won't, but me dwelling on it certainly is going to bring it about much more than me not dwelling on it. Because what we pay attention, where attention goes, energy flows. So as I shared in this Power of Belief webinar video, when you are having these thoughts that are electrical impulses that then produce emotions that are chemical messengers, and they wash over every cell in your body at light speed, You are producing the environment that creates health or not health. And so if you catch the thoughts early on, like pretty quickly, and don't allow them to turn into a story or rewrite the story, okay, I ate the food and it's all good. Like the sky is not falling. Um, and again, this is not my suggestion to throw, responsibility out of the window and start eating whatever you feel like eating, that might be bad for you, which is going to come back to your intuition. But it is more of an invitation to self-compassion and letting go of the story, really unconditionally accepting yourself, even when you do fall off the wagon, so to speak. So my experimenting with this over this past week has been resulting in me having less hot flashes. And when they do happen, I'm not fighting them. This is not to say that they are my first choice, but it's to say, okay, this is happening and I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go instead of shoulding myself. Like, oh, I should have done this, or I should be here and, farther along in my health or whatever. My understanding of the power of belief comes down to two things. One, you have the opportunity, the option, the choice to radically change your health by shifting your mindset, and then also your behaviors. And two, lost my thought. Anything that's happening is for you because it's helping you evolve. And let me share a little bit more on that. Your body, your brain, which is running the show, doesn't know the difference between good stress and bad stress. So in other words, stress is stress. However, if we make it bad, then it is bad. Like, I know that sounds godlike, and yes, that is what I'm suggesting. We're co-creating with the universe. We're co-creating with source, God, whatever word you like to use, by telling it our choices. And we can change those choices because we're co-creating. But that was a little side rail there. As we have these stressful experiences, whether it's good stress or bad stress, the cell, in this case, the neuron, is going in to repair that damage because all stress creates damage in the cells, whether that's your bones or your muscles or your neurons, whatever we're talking about. Stress creates damage in the cell. Your cells are designed to repair that damage. So they go in and they clean up the mess, and now the cell is stronger. So it's actually helping you to evolve. If we lived in a vacuum with, just a pure bubble of nothing ever goes the way I wish it wouldn't go, then we wouldn't grow. We would be like worms or something. I don't know. I that just popped into my head for some reason. So it helps us evolve and grow in our mindset, and then turn around and help others to do the same. And as I've already alluded to with my experiment that I've been doing with the hot flashes, the more you focus on that situation, the more it's going to grow because you're giving it energy. You're choosing it. Just like happiness is a choice, or love is a choice, health is a choice as well. And So the opposites of those are also true. Unhappiness is a choice. Feeling unloved or lacking in love is a choice. Being unhealthy is a choice. And before you sit and argue with me about, I didn't pick this, you may not have, and arguments could be made depending on your spiritual beliefs, but even setting that aside, you may not have um, consciously picked some situation for yourself, but the chances are that you've subconsciously picked it if you haven't consciously picked it. So, say for example, you are you have subconscious beliefs that encourage you to beat yourself up mentally, or um, have beliefs that are not serving you, or have habits that are not serving you, and you're self-sabotaging yourself. You are making those choices. You're making them unconsciously, subconsciously. um, and then sometimes they are conscious choices, right? um, like, I know that when I eat a bag of chips, my hot flashes get worse. But I'm going to go ahead and eat the bag of chips. And this is not to beat yourself up about, because then that just creates more stress and more hot flashes. Um, Especially if you have a belief that it's going to. But it is to say you've made the choice, right? Like, based on my belief that potato chips are going to cause me to have a hot flash, and I go ahead and eat the potato chips, well, then you've made a choice. So whether you want to look at it as subconsciously self-sabotaging or consciously self-sabotaging, either way, choices are being made that are putting you in the situation that you're in. And it's always going to come back to self-compassion. So this is never about beating yourself up that you have whatever you have going on in your health. If you recognize that choices are what got you there, then choices are what will get you out of there. And so I've been making a lot of new choices related to my health lately. And what I have noticed are the following things. So here it is on January 19th. Usually by this time of the winter, my mood and energy is pretty low. Having experienced, seasonal affective disorder for many years now, um, winter's usually pretty rough. And I've had some days this past winter, up to this point, that have been, lower energy or whatever, but not like in the past. The big difference this time has been two things that I've done differently. And yes, this ties in with menopause because mental health is often affected. Two things. One, I'm exercising more. And the book that I mentioned about stress and the neurons and how that actually makes them more resilient came from a book called Spark, the Revolutionary New Science of Exercise in the Brain. I think I mentioned that in a previous video as well. And how exercise helps to eliminate ADHD, um, depression, anxiety, and probably some others. I'm not remembering right now all of the things that can happen with menopause. And also being more mindful of my thoughts. So when I'm feeling tired or sad or low energy or whatever, or even if I'm dealing with insomnia, instead of turning it to this whole, oh my God, blah, blah, blah story, I catch the thought and I say, no, this is what's happening in this moment and it'll pass. Quick last thought, because I'm going to try to keep this video relatively short. There's a woman by the name of Candace Pert. She has a PhD in pharmacology, and she wrote an article called The Molecules of Emotion. And in this book, or article rather, she mentions that emotions only last 30 seconds unless you feed them with your thoughts, that is. So, as you are struggling in some type of emotion, in my case, having been sadness or depression, um, and recognize that it's just what's happening in this moment. I don't have to turn it into a, a whole day, a whole week, a whole season. Um, then you let go of those possibilities. And exercise obviously has helped a great deal because of the part it plays in the brain health and the neurotransmitters. Um, and I'm getting off track a little bit here, but all of that to say, to summarize, the power is in belief. The power is in making new choices. The power is in letting go of the story. Um, and your your willingness to the more you're willing to do that, the more success you'll see. And I know it sounds simple and not easy. So it's going to come down to your level of commitment. And I don't say this as a way of blaming because that's what it always comes down to for any of us. How badly do I want it? Um, you hear stories of people who have radically transformed their health, and it came at an expense, right? Like they had to let go of stories and they had to let go of the way they were used to being in the world. Um, so, recap, you can manage hot flashes more effectively by being in the moment, by letting go of the story, by not resisting in the times where they do come, by exercising self-compassion, rather than beating yourself up. And last thought, I have noticed when I make myself wrong in any situation, when I am accepting some kind of self-criticism, hot flash happens. It's like my body's saying, "Oh, you want to beat yourself up? Okay, here, let me help you with that." um, so pay attention to when you have yours and notice what the pattern is, both with your thoughts and with what behaviors you're engaging in, whether that's potato chips or something else, um, to see what shifts you can make. Be in the flow. Choose wisely